To be honest, your toddler doesn't care, okay? Hear me out. They literally do not care if something is unsafe, if something is dangerous, if something is breaking the rules. They do not care. So when you're setting boundaries, save yourself a whole lot of hassle and stop trying to logic or reason them out of it. Now, stick with me and let me explain, because this is something that I hear from a ton of moms and people who have my toddler tantrums guide when I'm teaching this framework of like setting boundaries and stopping tricky behaviors. People often come to me and are like, well, I tried to explain to them like, hey, it's not safe to stand on top of the table, and they didn't care. They kept doing it. They kept wanting to get up there and they threw a huge tantrum. And I'm like, yeah, your toddler does not care that it's unsafe to stand on the table for a few reasons. Not because they're bad, not because they're horrible kids, but for one, developmentally, when they're doing a tricky behavior, they do not have access to their logical brain. So they cannot reason and logic and think critically the way we can as adults. That part of their brain is so underdeveloped already, it's just not happening, right? They're not sitting there thinking like, oh, if I stand on this table and I fall down, I could hit my arm and break my arm and that'll hurt really bad. Their thought process starts and ends with, it's fun to be on the table, okay? That is it. Secondly, up until around the age 6 or 7, developmentally, kids are very me-focused. They're very ego-centered, and not in a bad way, just that like their world is like about them. They are the center of their universe. So trying to logic and reason, again, explain how like their behaviors are going to impact others, especially in the moments when they're dysregulated, right? Especially in the moments when they're feeling very emotional. It's just not going to absorb, because that's not the way their brain processes information. This is where you come in and you say, hey, the table is for eating. You can stand on the floor and jump. If they don't get down, you take them down and you say, I can't let you be up there. It's not safe. And you end it at that. That's it, right? If they ask you why, or they're curious, then of course, like I'm a huge fan of not being the parent who's like, because I'm the parent and I said so, right? Like I'm going to explain things to my kids. But if your toddler's like on the floor having a meltdown because they want to be on the table, you don't need to be like, well, it's not safe and I'm trying to keep you safe and you could fall and break your arm. Like just zip it. Right? Just zip it and it'll be so much more effective. This is what I teach in my toddler tantrums guide. And a big thing that I teach in there is that like in the moment and setting a boundary, that's one part. And then later when they're calm at bedtime, another time of day when they're happy is when we can come back and talk about these behaviors. We can teach them new skills. We can teach them alternate things to do. And then in those calm moments, you can start to teach and connect the dots and give them that perspective, right, that you have as an adult. But it cannot happen in the moment. That's just not going to work. You want to feel super confident setting boundaries like this and then handling the upset, the tantrums, the frustration that's going to come up when you set the boundaries in a way that's going to stop the behavior from happening long term. That's exactly what I teach in my toddler tantrums guide.